it's not a problem with money. But when you talk about the kids in the lower impoverished in inner cities that don't have the resources, their mom is working two jobs just to keep the lights on. It's hard for us out here. So we need to have something in our community that our kids can actually get involved in that doesn't cost $1 million, that is for the youth, and we should be able to fund it.
Welcome to the We Got Problems podcast with co-hosts Curtis G. Martin, Rhonda L. Brown, and Khalif Johnson Sr., the one and only podcast where solutions get discussed to our community's everyday troubles. Each week, you will hear mind-blowing conversations and actionable tips and strategies that you can implement in your daily life to become more effective. We got problems and we got solutions.
All right, you guys, welcome to the show. This is We Got Problems, the podcast. I'm Curtis G. Martin here with my co-host, Rhonda L. Brown.
Hey, everybody.
Khalif Johnson Sr.
How y'all doing?
And Ashika Phillips.
Hey.
Hey, you guys, today we got a special topic. You guys, y'all go for it. Open it up.
Extracurricular activities. So the first thing came to mind for me, and if you know me, you're probably not surprised, right? But I'm just getting ready to go there. So if I do like this, do y'all know what this comes from?
The Girl Scouts.
I was a Girl Scout through and through. Like, I'm like forever a Girl Scout. But yeah, that's what the topic is today. We're talking about extracurricular activities for youth. And for me, I grew up in Girl Scouts. From the time I made it all the way up to, I think at that time it was junior, a cadet. I made it there. And I feel like once a Girl Scout, always a Girl Scout, right? You learn about volunteering, community impact, giving back, public speaking, like all of those different things. But it is important. What about you, Trash? What were you involved in?
Oh man, coming up, I came up in youth sports, so we did that. I was also involved in HRC Human Resources Club with Mrs. Pleasance in Compton. It was a few activities that I was involved in, but I think more importantly, I got involved with sports. That changed the whole course of my who I am. Right now, I still operate a nonprofit track club that I do for the youth. I mean, it's a total volunteer work. It's a total volunteer job, but it is a job. It is work. We are out at track meets. You find yourself spending your weekend out with the youth, running around with kids, and oh my goodness, it's a lot. But now as they transition, my son's in high school. He went through the whole youth rank where he even took me all around the country. I'd have been to Texas. I'd have been to Florida. I'd have been to Kansas. I'd have been to North Carolina, Sacramento a couple times. Just the whole growth into the youth sport. Now that he's in high school, we're competing for a state title now. So we just went and I don't know when this episode is going to come out, but we just competed for Masters last night and we won a few of our events. We progressed in a couple areas that we weren't even expected to get past the first round. So just seeing all the kids that ran with them at youth, now they're in high school. Some of them are graduating. I got athletes in college now that you see them grow up and now they're going through the whole growth of their careers. So youth sports has been a big extracurricular activity that I've been involved in my whole life. What about you, Rhonda?
I've tried a few different things. I've tried like the ice skating and tennis, softball, basketball. And if you know me, I was in a chess club. So I think that might be all. How about you, Curtis?
It was sports for me mostly. We did boxing. We did basketball, football, baseball. I tried, couldn't do it. The little white ball coming at me too quick, hard ball wasn't for me. No, it wasn't. I think they used to call it the ball eating you up, right? Like I turned and had to guide, watch myself. But so football, I ended up being too thin at some point, right? I was the same size as all the other kids, and then as everybody grew, I still was a slim kid. So I ended up sticking to basketball mostly. I think it was really important part of my life too, because you know, if you don't have those extracurricular activities, then you end up doing something that can possibly get you in trouble. So I think it kept us away from a lot of the bad things that was in the neighborhood. You know, we think about the hoods being bad now. Back then was bad, but it was just a certain bad to what we knew then, right? So it
Mm-hmm.
kept me out of the way.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, like speaking on youth programs, I don't know. When we were coming up, we used to have summer programs, and we had one called NYSP, National Youth Sports Program. It was one that they took us all the kids from the city and from surrounding cities. They brought us all together. We met at Compton College. Our parents dropped us off. We all had different shirts that represented different groups, and you had your own group, and your group competed against other color shirts. So it was really it was so much fun because it wasn't one sport that you competed in. You had flag football, you had volleyball, you had swimming, you had what else did we play? We of course we played basketball. It was just so many different sports. And then they also had you in art classes, and they also had you in just physical activities and learning how to be kids without getting in trouble. Because growing up in Compton, I grew up in the city of Compton, it was so much trouble you could have got into. And when you have those kids occupied doing something constructive, it's a lot easier to stay out of trouble when you have something constructive to do. So I think those was the lifesavers for a lot of kids in my community when I came up. So shout out to NYSP and those people who did that when we were coming up.
You know, they talk about not having funds to do all these programs, but you know, we giving Ukraine billions of dollars, right? Like, but right here in America, we can't do nothing for the youth. I remember growing up in the summertime, they used to open up the schools, right? Like some of the schools in each neighborhood would be open and we can go play caroms. They had the gym open. We can go to the gym, the weight room. Like we was at the school, right? They had a summer school program that'll go for about a month, month and a half or so. So you could be in summer school, then you could be in that extra curricular activity, whatever it was. I
After
think
school program.
yeah, that was, and even if you wasn't involved in the summer school, you can go eat lunch, right? Like it was a lot going on, and the community need that, and now they don't have that. And what do we see now that has come out of it? In my neighborhood, I see those kids that used to be at the school, they're now gang members at that age. At 12, 13 years old, right? When they would have been over there participating in basketball and volleyball, like you said, trash and doing other things instead of roaming the streets, being around grown folks, right? You remember it was a time where parents and older people say, "Hey, boy, get on away from here. You too young to be over here."
Hmm.
Now they now you see them go, "Hey, little man, you got some smoke?" Right? Like they involved in intertwined with grown folks now, right? So it's important to have those activities.
I don't know. For me, it was always a protection thing for me. Like you said, Sheikah, you spoke about the Girl Scouts. For me, my mom was so protective over us that she was really hard to let us go anywhere with anybody else. And those Boy Scouts, they had a pretty nasty reputation in our hood about how some of those guidance counselors were behaving with our youth. So we had outsiders coming from outside the community inside of our community, and they weren't always for our community. So we need programs for our community, by our community, that will help and affect positive influence on our community without any of the negative things that come along with having outsiders come into our community. I have he's like a big brother to me, and I'll tell Chris about it later. But Chris Richardson, he put on an amazing program where he had all kind of professional athletes come back. He had his college athletes volunteering so they can get their volunteer hours, and he put together a program where youth kids came together in the city, and they all had opportunities to get a chance to run around the track. I got a picture right now that my daughter did. It was a painting that they did just to express themselves, and then they broke picture down and showed the kids what the painting mean. If you didn't paint the whole painting, this is what this means. Like, you're an incomplete person. You need to work on being fulfilled. If you did paint the complete painting and then you put feet on it, or you put it on the owl on a twig, this meant that. It just showed so much about the kids, and it broke down how their mind thinks and where they can benefit and where they can use some more resources at. So I mean, Chris Richardson did an amazing job with that Falcon Sports program for the summer. We need programs like that because summer is upon us right now, and these kids are going to be looking for something to get into. School is out. We need something positive going. If we got billions for Ukraine, we should put a couple millions in everybody community. And I say specifically of color, because when your community has resources, they don't really, it's not a problem with money. But when you talk about the kids in the lower impoverished in inner cities that don't have the resources, their mom is working two jobs just to keep the lights on. It's hard for us out here. So we need to have something in our community that our kids can actually get involved in, that doesn't cost $1 million, that is for the youth, and we should be able to fund that.
I think another important thing is when you do have children involved in extracurricular activities, they want to see their parents there. The parents need to show up and be involved and be rooting their, for their child. Like, don't just send them there and then forget about them. Like, they get excited about what they're doing, and they want you to be as excited as they are. So you have to be involved.
Yeah. And and speaking of being involved, I think that even to trash to your point, if there are some communities, if there, some guardians listening to this, you know, there may not be resources like that in your community. I think it's up to us as adults, as folks who care and caring for these children and our future, to take that extra step. I know, for me, when my daughter was growing up, when we were living in Nashville, and also when we lived in the Washington, D.C. area, there was always a local magazine. So in Nashville, it was called Nashville Parent. I think in the Washington, D.C. area, it might have been DMV Parent. I'm so making this up, but it's typically present in pretty much every large city. They're free. I would always find them at the grocery store as you're walking out. Another great place to find free resources for things for children to do is at the library. I think that is such a great resource. So, maybe now that I'm saying that, I'm scaling back, right? Because I said maybe there aren't any resources in your community, but as I'm thinking and talking about this out loud with all of you, I realize, no, if there is a library in your community, there are resources. If there is a YMCA in your community, there are resources. A lot of folks also don't realize that. I know the prices, the membership for YMCA, it is it's not what it used to be. But I also know though that there are also sliding scales. There are also so many stipends now, and a lot of those stipends came after COVID. So if you are interested in getting your child, your children active in something, and you're near a library or YMCA, those are really, really great places to start, right? So let's not just rely, as adults, we can't just rely on somebody to find or curate those opportunities for us. We can do that, right? Just take that extra step. And local universities. I know when my daughter was coming up, Vanderbilt, for an example, they had a science summer program for girls who were interested in science. And typical tuition was very costly for a young mom back then, but they had scholarships, right? So just sometimes we have to be creative, think outside of the box. So just wanted to add that.
No, definitely that. Like I looked just what you said, Lashika. I went to I stay in Inglewood, so I went to that city's website and that city had some events going on. I looked at the
Mm,
events and found which ones I wanted to go to, right? So
yeah.
they have things. We just got to be creative to go find them, right? They're not there for us like they used to be, to where it was just open. Hey, we know the school gonna be open, right? So that's no longer. But somewhere they have a place that we think we're outpriced, but like you said, they have those scholarships. And I wanted to touch on something Trash talked about. He talked about like Boy Scouts. I wasn't in Boy Scouts for the same reason. My uncle's name was hardcore, right? Like, so, oh, you're not going to Boy Scouts. Those dudes is this, those dudes is that, right? So that stigma that they had on them, if it was a stigma, I think I don't want to say that people outside our community don't need to help, but we don't want to just depend on them, and we want to make sure they're good people, right? Like that's the main point, is to make sure the people that's coming in to help, that they're good people. They're helping and not praying.
with good intentions.
Right.
Yeah, with
With
good
good
Yes,
intent,
intention.
with background checks. You
Yeah.
understand me?
for
And
sure.
And sometimes a little more than background checks. We're gonna watch you. I'm watching you.
that
Right?
Mm-hmm.
part.
Like I'm gonna be out here and I'm watching you. I want to see what you're about. You don't seem like I don't get a good vibe, right? You know, we talked about
Yeah.
those
Mm-hmm.
feelings. That's
Energy.
my
Energy.
spirit telling me, my gut feeling telling me,
Yeah.
whatever that feeling that you get from whatever source you get it from, I got that about you, so I'm gonna watch you,
Hmm.
right?
For
Like you
sure.
said, don't just drop your kids off. Be
Yeah.
involved. Like be a parent. Like I'm telling you, I can track practices to open practice. I want my parents sitting in the bleachers. I want my parents to sit there and watch how we're operating with your kids. I want you to see the discipline that's instilled in your kids. I want you to see the protection methods that we're instilling in your kids. Like I have no athletes walk by themselves kind of policy. So if you're going to the restroom, grab a teammate. Let's go. If you're at a track meet, grab a teammate. Let's go. If something happens, it's going to be two of y'all. It's never going to be just one of my athletes say, "Oh, this person did that." No, you had two of my athletes, and they both going to either give their side of the story, or like I had one situation where I saw an athlete. One was walking by himself, and he thought I was getting on him. He was like, "Nah, I was with my brother, but he went to go talk to a girl." And he came back, "Oh no, I went to the bathroom." By yourself? No, it was a girl with me. What are y'all doing? You walking off with your girlfriend and you left him here. Now he's looking like he about to get in trouble, and you sitting there somewhere. I have to reprimand him. Like now you're in trouble. I'll see you at practice. You're gonna be running these bleachers till your feet fall off until you learn the importance of staying with your team members when you're out and about, because anything can happen out here. Everybody that goes to these events don't have good intentions on their heart. So when you realize that the world is dangerous and you teach your kids that the world is dangerous, they operate in the world knowing that anything can happen. So they move a lot more cautiously, and they learn the importance of being around a good niche of people, a good group of people, and having a safety mechanism already instilled in them. I think that's really important, especially when we talk about our young boys and our young girls.
Hey, you know something else that's really cool about being into sports and stuff, because when you do have a family member that bring their kids, they more in tune to be more of a family.
Mm-hmm.
Right, it's that family dynamic that's there, that let me take my son, let me take my daughter. I'm at the game, right? And I get it, because some parents, my mother, man, she was one that she didn't come to the games, but she would make sure my auntie or somebody came, right? Because she
Mhm.
had to work, right? So I understand that part, but she made sure I was able to get a uniform. She made sure that I was able to get shoes to wear, right? Like
Hmm.
everybody on the team had white shoes on. Okay, I'm gonna have some white shoes, right? She couldn't
Hmm.
be there all the time because of her circumstances, right? But
Hmm.
so I get that part. But when the kid can show up and the kid can have their stuff, then that's a different kid. Because some kids show up, man, they don't have food
Mhm.
to eat, right? They don't have no clothes to wear, so they get teased for not having the latest shoes, right? They get teased for whatever reason. And me, I want to say I'm somewhat frugal. It might seem otherwise, y'all, like, because I do like to dress and stuff, but I actually I wouldn't say I'm birdie, but I shop cost effectively, right? Like I make
Mm-hmm.
sure I buy things to where my money can go a long way. And so with my kids, I used to buy them shacks. My son used to wear the shack shoe. Nobody wear those because they come from Walmart, right?
Mm-hmm.
They talk about kids, but as my son got older and started playing sports, now he's in Nike just because I don't want him ridiculed because of the way I want to spend money. So I
Mm-hmm.
make sure I learn to buy them certain things to keep them involved to where they're not picked on and to where they're not just roaming the hood. I was talking to a parent the other day, and he told me that his kid said the N word, and they're not black, right? So he said, "I'm coming to tell you because um, I don't want you to hear it from nobody else." Right.
Mm-hmm.
And when he told me, if I was like, bro, I'm good though, man. I said, I do have one question. How did he say it? Did he say it to a kid? He like, no, he didn't say it to a kid. He said it amongst him and his boys.
Mm.
And then he went on to tell me some other stuff, and I'm gonna keep that private, but he went on to tell me some other stuff. And I was like, I said, that's kind of different, man, because kids listen to rap music and they will call each other the N-word,
Mm-hmm.
right? Kids from like it's the intention behind when a kid says something like that, right? But
I agree.
just back to that family dynamic, man. I don't know how I got on that tangent, but just back to that family dynamic, man, of just being there for our kids and knowing what we getting them into and knowing what they're doing, right? And I think another topic I was gonna hit on that is like my son, he don't even know that there's gangs out there. He had heard about them, but we live amongst it, and he has no clue what that is. Like at some point, I got to show him what it looks like, so it don't sneak up on him. And he like, I don't have no idea. I was just with my friend such and such, and we went over here, and he pulled out a gun.
Man,
Right.
man, that's
So
crazy. That's crazy, Kurt. I didn't mean to cut you out. I just had a situation involving my son because he grew up because my whole goal was not to raise him in the environment that I grew up in. That was my primary focus. We grew up as the have-nots. They did the Sanford and Son song when we pulled up in my dad's pickup truck. They talked about the holes in the jeans,
not
the
the
hole
Sanford
in
and
the
Son song, huh?
dun, 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 dun. That's exactly what they said when they saw my pop pulling up. But you know, one of the things about it was my dad was older when he had me. So and he wasn't physically able to go to some of my games when I was young. So I made it my business not to be a father that was too old to be able to be involved in my son's activities because that was what I wanted when I was coming up. So if Junior here, he'll understand why. But I grew him up in a nice neighborhood. The school district over here is a pretty nice neighborhood. The best school that I could get him to, as far as elementary goes, the best middle school in our district. I got him into it because we got another one that's a homeschool, but it ain't as good because it's brought up in a lower end area. So it's not as good as the one that I took him to. So I made sure I had him in the best of the best. But when it came time to go to high school, I pulled him up out of everything we know and I dropped him in the middle of the east side of Long Beach. And in the middle of the east side of Long Beach, it's a whole different demographic of kids that go there. So now you're exposed to not just the sports kids, you're exposed to the nerdy kids. It's some different communities that go there that you have to be aware of and you see how they move. Then there's also the kids that come from the have-nots and they ain't got nothing to lose and they go to school with IEPs and they crash dummies. You got some little kids that's just on crash dummy course and they already know the course they on and their parents aren't involved enough to do anything about it. So, you know, you have to expose them to the whole range of everything that they gonna have to deal with in life. And it was a big jump out of the little pond into the big ocean for my son. And he wasn't alone when he got there, but I'm glad that he does get that experience to know that yeah, you're not doing too bad over here. So you might have thought that because this family has a Range Rover and this family has Mercedes Benz that you're not on their level, but you come from a family that loves you and they teach you that you're loved because you have time. Your family spends time with you. Your family gives you everything you could possibly want and possibly need, and we're in tune with you. We're not giving up on you. We're not letting you just go and B, nah, you have a family that's actually actively involved in your life. And that's one of those things that kids spell love like. I was listening to a quote. They said, "How do kids spell love? Time." That was something that Nip said. He said, "How do kids spell love? Time." How much time are you willing to put in with them?
Yeah, we always say my family, a family that plays together stays together. I know historically it's been pray, family that prays together, but we kind of adopted our own thing, and family that plays together stays together. So we have to keep that in mind. Pick up a old Uno cards,
I got some in my bag right now. That's
I
what I'm
don't
gonna see the
know.
kids play at the track meet. The kids play Uno at track meets all the time, and those games gets kind of intense. That's one of the
Yeah,
things.
because they got different rules to Uno now. I'm like, I don't know what kind of rules
I
y'all
know
playing
it's
to.
like
And with
Uno
all
2.0.
games, when all games, people make up their own rules and shit too. So
Hey, speed. Hey, them speed games be different.
See?
You can't. You only can use one hand. You only can have 5 cards in your hand. They got some
Oh,
rules of speed now. You got to be careful about their speed
hey,
games.
hey, look, before we get out of here though, let's leave the people with why you think it's important to have your kids in some type of activity other than just roaming the streets.
I think it builds leadership. It definitely builds work ethic, discipline. Yeah.
And besides keeping them out of trouble, it gives them an opportunity to experience different things, like get them interested in different things.
Okay, for me as a track coach, I just got a graduation letter from one of my kids that, like I said, he was probably one of my favorite kids coaching coming up because he came in there with a goal to run faster than Usain Bolt. And just seeing the confidence over the years to where this young man has grown into, it gives them a sense of who they are and they learn themselves. And I think that's really important for every youth.
Yeah, I kind of like what you guys said. Even Lashika, you talked about building leaders, right? I think whenever you expose your kids or the youth to something different, they learn, right?
Yeah.
So if you can continue learning and not lose that as an adult, you become a great person or a productive person in the community, right? I always tell people that kids are only smart as their parents. If you right, like because your kid, he only knows what his parent taught him when he go out in the
Mhm.
world. Like my mom spoke Ebonics, right? So well, not my mom's, but most of my family that was around spoke Ebonics. So I ended up speaking Ebonics, right? Like it
Hmm.
is what it is, right? So my kids are around a different circle now and they speak proper English. So I get checked now, right? Hey, so hey, let's keep your kids learning, right? Hey, I'm gonna leave y'all with one more thing too, because I heard something from KRS-One. He said, I'm gonna just kind of paraphrase it, but old people, young people. He said one of the reasons that one stops growing or one don't grow is because the young won't listen to the old and the old won't listen to the young, right? So when you get a even mix, like me as an older guy now, I listen to the young. That's why I can stay relevant, right? Because I know what's going on, right? Now, other people, they seem old. I done seen people my age, and they're like, damn, you like grandpa. I guess I am too. Shit, fuck. Right? Right? Like, you don't know because you stay relevant, right? So keep your kids learning.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys, we got problems, but we also have solutions,
Yes, we do.
and we out.
Peace.
From the team at CRC Empire, we want to thank you for listening. To stay connected with us, like, share, and subscribe to the We Got Problems podcast. You can find us on social media platforms at Curtis Martin 247, at Rhonda Wrights Official, and at the_trash_vegan_. We got problems and we got solutions.